discipline, such merciless precision? The answer, though unspoken, was clear in every strike. Humanity had not died in the dark. They had sharpened themselves in it. The Dominion fleets wavered. Their confidence faltered as their warships fell, faster than they could count. Their formations broke, captains screamed, engines failed. The warlord who once mocked the Valari now roared in desperation, as if shouting could stop the storm that had descended upon them. Through it all, the humans remained silent. No declarations, no threats. Only the rhythm of their weapons, the cold dance of destruction. The Valari survivors clutched each other, torn between fear and gratitude. To them, these newcomers were both salvation and terror. They had called for help, and something beyond their imagination had answered. The Deathworlder Armada watched longer than most. Their ships lingered on the edges of battle, not yet joining, but observing. And what they saw made even their hardened commanders shift uneasily. These humans did not fight like prey. They did not fight like opportunists. They fought like a species that had stared death itself in the eyes and decided not to bow. In the silence between volleys, the Valari whispered the words none dared to say aloud. What are they? And though no answer came, the galaxy itself seemed to know. They were a storm that shattered through. The battlefield had become a storm of fire. The humans pressed forward relentless, tearing through Dominion fleets with weapons that struck like thunder. Yet the Dominion was not an empire that surrendered easily. Their numbers were vast, their pride unshaken, and their warlord's voice roared across every channel like a curse. Kill them. Break them. These intruders will not stand against the Dominion. Hundreds of Dominion ships surged together, walls of steel and flame. Their weapons poured into the humans, their beams slicing across the void, missiles streaking like falling stars. Against any other foe, the assault would have been final, but humanity did not scatter. They held. Their dreadnoughts endured wave after wave, shields glowing white under the strain, hulls groaning as fire ate into their armor. And when the moment came, they struck back with terrifying unity. The Valari, watching from the wreckage of their stations, could only whisper in awe. They had never seen a fleet move like this. No hesitation, no confusion. Every human ship seemed to know its role, as if they shared one mind, one unyielding will. The Dominion roared. The humans answered with silence, and with fire. But they were not the only predators in the system. The Deathworlder Armada, silent until now, finally moved. Their ships cut forward, breaking through the shadows, their engines burning with ancient fury. For centuries, the Armada had carried the title of the galaxy's most feared predators. To them, this battle was not about the Valari. It was not about the Dominion. It was about the challenge. Here, at last, stood a rival worthy of them. The Valari cried out in despair as new waves of fire filled the void. Their broken people, already trembling at the chaos around them, now saw the nightmare multiply. What chance did they have if 3 titans clashed over their dying world? Please, stop, you will destroy us all, their transmissions pleaded, desperate voices breaking into static. But no one listened. The Dominion and the humans clashed like fire and steel. The Deathworlders entered like beasts drawn to blood. The battlefield became a storm where 3 predators met, each unwilling to bend, each determined to prove dominance. Valari survivors wept as their planet burned brighter. They had hoped for salvation. Instead, they had called down monsters. The Dominion fought with pride, throwing their endless numbers forward. The humans fought with precision, cutting deep into the enemy's core with every strike. The Deathworlders fought with savagery, tearing through whatever stood before them, their ships roaring with weapons that shook space itself. It was chaos, pure, merciless chaos. And yet, through the storm, there was something different about the humans. The Valari noticed it first. When Dominion ships fled into Valari refugee zones, the humans avoided firing. When Deathworlder weapons threatened to engulf helpless stations, the humans placed their own ships in the path, shields breaking as they absorbed the blows. Even as they tore apart fleets, even as their silence made them seem merciless, there, was a thread of something different in their actions. It was not conquest. It was not hunger for blood. It was resolve. The humans had come not to rule, not to feed, but to protect. The Deathworlder Armada began to see it too. For the first time, their commanders hesitated. They recognized the difference. The humans fought like predators, yes, but predators who carried something even fiercer than hunger. They carried purpose. Still, the battle raged. The Dominion screamed, the Valari begged, the Deathworlders hunted, and the humans pressed forward, unyielding. And above the burning Valari skies, in the heart of that terrible clash, the truth was beginning to reveal itself. This was not a war between empire and prey. This was the meeting of monsters. And humanity was proving they were not just another predator. They were something far more dangerous. The battle raged on, tearing the void apart with fire and thunder. Dominion warships burned, Valari stations crumbled, and the Deathworlder Armada circled like wolves testing a new rival. For a moment, it seemed that the galaxy had turned into a single battlefield where only destruction ruled. But then, something changed. A human signal cut through the chaos. It was not long, not full of speeches or demands. It was a single broadcast, carried on every frequency, translated into every tongue by ancient machines. The words were calm, steady, unshaken. We are not here for conquest. We are not here for glory. We are here because someone cried for help, and humanity answers cries for help. The Valari froze as the words echoed in their shattered comms. Tears filled their eyes. For so long, they had believed no one would come, that their people would die forgotten among the stars. But here, in the middle of fire and blood, a voice had spoken for them. A voice that carried hope. The Dominion reacted with fury. Their warlord roared in rage, his pride stung by the words. Lies. No species fights without gain. You are invaders, just as we are conquerors. His fleets pressed harder, desperate, to drown the humans in numbers. But the words had already taken root. Even the Deathworlder Armada paused. In the silence between volleys, their commanders listened. They understood predators. They understood hunger, dominance, survival. But this was something different. A species that carried teeth yet fought not for empire but for others. It was rare, unthinkable, and it unsettled them. The humans gave no further speeches. Their words had been enough. They returned to the storm of battle, their actions speaking, louder than any promise. When Valari refugee transports drifted too close to enemy fire, human ships shielded them. When Dominion cruisers tried to use survivors as cover, humanity's weapons shifted, firing with precision that destroyed the foe but spared the innocent. Every move spoke the same truth. They had not come for conquest. They had come to protect. The Q. Valari wept openly now, voices trembling across the comms. They fight for us. They truly fight for us. The Dominion warlord grew desperate. He hurled his fleets forward, screaming that humans were liars, that no predator would ever fight, without hunger. But his words rang hollow as his ships burned one after another, under the cold precision of human fire. And all the while, the Deathworlder Armada watched. For them, the galaxy had always been simple, prey or predator, weak or strong. But the humans had shattered that truth. They were predators, yes, but they carried something else within them, something that made even the Deathworlders hesitate. It was not mercy, it was not weakness, it was resolve. The humans did not fight because they were forced to. They did not fight because they hungered for blood. They fought because someone had called for help, and they had answered. For the Valari, it was salvation. For the Dominion, it was terror. For the Deathworlders, it was a revelation. The battle still raged, the void still burned, but a truth had already spread like fire through every fleet. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and they carried not only the strength of predators but the will of protectors. and that made them something the galaxy had never seen before. The Dominion had ruled by fear for centuries. Their fleet spread across stars like wildfire, consuming weaker species, enslaving worlds, and crushing resistance before it could breathe. They believed themselves unbreakable. Their warlord had never faced a defeat that left scars. But in the burning skies above, the Valari homeworld, that belief shattered. The humans advanced like a spear through the heart of the Dominion formation. Their dreadnoughts carved a path with brutal precision, their smaller ships swarming around them like hunters driving prey. Every strike was calculated, every movement exact. Where the Dominion relied on overwhelming numbers, humanity relied on focus. And focus in that moment was stronger than numbers. The Valari watched from the ruins of their orbiting stations, barely daring to hope. They saw the Dominion's proud fleets twist in confusion as humans tore holes through their defenses. One by one, mighty cruisers broke apart, their explosions painting the void in fire. The Dominion warlord screamed across comms, his fury echoing through every ship under his command. "Hold the line. They are few. Break them." But the humans were not breaking. One massive dreadnought, scarred black from countless impacts, pushed forward into the Centi. The galaxy was old. Empires had risen like suns and fallen like ash. Great wars had scarred the stars, leaving behind ruins that drifted in silence. In this endless cycle of power and collapse, one truth was known to every race. The most dangerous species did not come from peaceful worlds. They came from places the galaxy called Deathworlds. A Deathworld was a curse. It was a planet where storms never rested, where oceans swallowed continents, where predators hunted not for food, but for dominance. Life there was never gentle. To live, one had to fight every day. To thrive, one had to become something more than prey. From such crucibles came the fiercest civilizations, and when they left their homeworlds, the galaxy learned to fear them. So, when the Valari Republic, a gentle people of traders and diplomats, sent out their desperate cry for help, no one expected salvation. The Valari were scholars, not warriors. They built ships for trade, not for war. Against the Karrak Dominion, a brutal empire of conquerors, their fleets shattered like glass. Their homeworld burned, their colonies fell silent. The Valari leaders, in despair, sent a final broadcast. "To any who can hear it, we beg for aid. We cannot stand alone." Most of the galaxy ignored the plea. The council debated, but did not act. Neighbors turned away, fearful of the Dominion's wrath. The Valari expected silence in return, but silence did not come. From the edge of the void, from the dark borders of known space, an answer stirred. First came the Deathworlder Armada. Their arrival was like the sudden shadow of a predator passing over prey. Their warships tore out of hyperspace, massive, scarred, forged from worlds no sane species would inhabit. To the Valari, their presence was not hope but terror. The Armada never came to rescue. They came to hunt, to measure their strength against others, to remind the galaxy that they were apex predators among the stars. The Valari wept. Had their cry for help only called wolves to the field of slaughter? But the story did not end there. Because the signal traveled farther than anyone believed. It slipped past charted routes. It cut through forgotten regions. It reached a people most of the galaxy thought gone, a people erased from memory, whispered of only in myths told by frightened elders. Humanity. For 20,000 years, humans had been little more than rumors. Some said they had destroyed themselves. Others claimed they had been banished to the outer dark. A few believed they were only legend, a tale of warriors too reckless to survive. But legends sometimes wake. The Valari sensors detected them first. Strange warships tearing through subspace with violence so raw it cracked the void. Their forms were unfamiliar, their technology mismatched, scarred, brutal, and yet beautiful in their defiance. They came in silence, no declaration, no demand for recognition. Only one message pulsed from their lead ship, short and sharp. Signal received. And with those words, everything changed. The Volari huddled in fear and fragile hope, watching from the ashes of their fleets. The Dominion laughed, confident that no force could stand against their armadas. And the Deathworlder Armada, ancient, predators themselves, shifted uneasily, because they recognized something in those human ships, something they had not seen in a long time. Not prey, not lambs, not another desperate species begging for survival. No, they saw a storm. Humanity had answered the signal, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Volari homeworld, once a place of music and gentle light, now hung beneath a choking sky of fire. Cities lay in ruin, oceans boiled where orbital strikes had scorched the surface, and the cries of the people echoed in shattered comm channels. Above the planet, what remained of the Volari fleet drifted like broken wings. Ships without engines, without weapons, only fragments of hope left in the void. They waited in silence. The distress signal had been sent, though none had believed anyone would answer. When the first signatures appeared on the edge of the system, the Volari commanders rushed to their consoles, clinging to the fragile spark of salvation. But that spark died quickly. The ships that emerged were not saviors. They were predators. The Deathworlder Armada came with iron hulls and war banners older than the Volari Republic itself. Their vessels were immense, black shapes scarred from centuries of battle, carrying weapons whose power made even Dominion commanders pause. To the Volari, they were nightmares from children's tales. The kind of force that swept across stars. Not to conquer but to prove dominance, the Volari admiral whispered in despair. We called for help, but the wolves have come. The Dominion, arrogant and unshaken, only laughed. Their fleets spread across the system, hemming the Volari in like a trap. Their warlord broadcast across every channel, voice full of cruelty. Mine. How the lambs bleat. They called for aid, and wolves answered. But wolves eat lambs all the same. The Deathworlders did not reply. Their ships formed a silent wall in the darkness, cold and patient. The Volari thought perhaps their end would come not by the Dominion, but by these terrible newcomers. And then, the void screamed. From the far edge of the system, the fabric of space tore open like glass, shattering under a hammer. A pulse of raw energy rolled outward, shaking even the Dominion's mighty fleets. Sensors blazed, alarms shrieked. Something was coming, something unknown. The Dominion ships pivoted, their laughter faltering. The Volari huddled in silence, hearts trembling. Even the Deathworlder Armada turned their ancient weapons toward the disturbance, sensing a rival predator at the edge of their territory. The rift widened, and through it, warships emerged. They were not the largest ships the galaxy had ever seen, nor the most advanced. Their armor bore scars. Their designs looked almost mismatched, as if forged from necessity rather than perfection. But they carried a presence that was undeniable. Each vessel radiated something the Volari could not name, but felt deep within their bones. The newcomers were human. Their arrival was not quiet. The first human dreadnought emerged with guns already glowing. Without hesitation, it fired a single massive salvo. The Dominion flagship nearest the rift erupted in a bloom of fire torn apart in seconds. The explosion lit the void like the birth of a new star. For the first time, the Dominion fell silent. The Volari stared, breathless, their tears now mixed with awe. They had thought the humans myths, lost to the void. Yet here they were, real, fierce, unstoppable. The Deathworlder Armada studied them with the cold eyes of hunters. They recognized the way those ships moved, calculated, fearless, efficient. This was no prey. This was a rival, a challenger. Humanity did not send words. No grand speeches, no promises, no warnings. Their ships simply advanced, every motion sharp with intent, every silence heavier than threats. The Volari whispered to one another, their voices shaking with both fear and wonder. What are they? The answer would come not in words, but in fire. The humans had arrived. and with them the void itself seemed to tremble, as though space had remembered a storm it had long forgotten. The moment the first Dominion flagship split apart, silence swept across the battlefield. It was the silence of shock, of disbelief, of predators realizing something had entered the arena that they had not prepared for. The fireball of the shattered ship drifted in the void, casting broken light on the fleets that surrounded it. Then came the second strike. The human dreadnoughts did not pause to admire their work. They moved with precision, like blades wielded by an unseen hand. Railguns fired in controlled bursts, kinetic slugs piercing through Dominion cruisers as if their armor was paper. Plasma lances cut across the void in burning lines, each shot deliberate, each strike final. The Dominion scrambled to react. Their warlord barked commands across open channels, his voice breaking into roars of rage. Turn! Crush them! Show them the price of interference! But the humans were already inside their formation. Smaller frigates darted between massive warships with terrifying agility, striking weak points, vanishing before retaliation could land. Their tactics were brutal and simple. Hit, break, move. No wasted fire, no hesitation. Every ship moved as if part of one mind. The Valari, watching from crippled stations, could not look away. Their people had never seen war like this. To them, battles were slow, calculated, dragged out across days. But humanity fought like a storm, sudden, violent, unstoppable. One Valari officer whispered, voice trembling, "They do not fight to survive. They fight to end." Even the Deathworlder Armada hesitated. Predators knew other predators, and what they saw unsettled them. The humans were not the largest. They were not the most heavily armed. And yet, every movement carried something the Deathworlders recognized with a shiver of respect. The will to kill without flinching. The Dominion launched their counterattack. Hundreds of warships turned their guns toward the newcomers, filling the void with fire. Missiles streaked. Beams cut across the darkness. Space itself lit with chaos. The human fleet did not scatter. They advanced. Dreadnoughts raised shields, absorbing the storm of fire until their hulls burned and groaned. Then they answered with weapons of their own, breaking Dominion cruisers apart in burning flashes. A single human carrier released swarms of drones, each one small and fragile, yet deadly in numbers. They darted into weak points, burrowed into engines, and detonated like fireflies turning into suns. One by one, Dominion ships went dark. Still, the Valari could not understand. These humans had been silent for thousands of years, forgotten, lost. How could they fight with such mastery, such are of the Dominion fleet? Its shields flickered, its hull cracked, but still it moved. The Dominion opened fire with everything they had, beams and missiles slamming into its body like hammers against stone. The dreadnought did not stop. With engines burning and guns blazing, it drove straight into the Dominion's command carrier, the pride of their fleet, the warlord's throne of power. The two ships collided in a thunderclap of fire. For a moment, the void itself seemed to tremble. The dreadnought locked onto the carrier's shields, holding it in place, refusing to let it escape. Then from the swarms of smaller human ships came the finishing blow. Frigates darted like arrows into the weak points. Drones flooded into the cracks. Torpedoes pierced deep. Piece by piece, the Dominion carrier began to collapse. The Valari gasped, hands covering their mouths as they watched the impossible unfold. The Dominion's command ship, the symbol of their endless strength, was dying. Inside the Dominion fleet, panic spread. Captains shouted, formations broke. Without their warlord's steady voice, fear poisoned their discipline. Their once proud Armada began to retreat, their engines flaring as they tried to escape the storm they could not control. The warlord's final roar echoed through every channel, filled not with pride, but with desperation. "We are eternal. You cannot..." And then, silence. The Dominion command carrier exploded in a blaze brighter than a sun. The shockwave tore through nearby ships, sending them spiraling. The warlord was gone. Their chain of command was gone. And with it, the Dominion's strength crumbled. The Valari fell to their knees in tears. For the first time in generations, they felt hope return. The Deathworlder Armada, watching from the edges, did not laugh. They did not sneer. They only watched in silence, their predatory eyes fixed on the humans, because they understood what had just happened. These humans were not simply strong. They were not simply skilled. They had shattered through the pride of an empire with willpower as much as with weapons. They had done what even the Deathworlders would not risk, throwing themselves against the heart of the storm and refusing to let go until it broke. And in that moment, even the Deathworlders, feared across the galaxy, whispered a truth among themselves. Humanity is like us, but more. The Dominion fled into the dark. The Valari wept in relief, and the galaxy shifted in silence, realizing a new force had returned from myth. Humanity had shattered through, and nothing would ever be the same again. The fires of battle slowly faded, leaving only silence and drifting wreckage. Dominion ships, once so proud and countless, now fled into the shadows of the void, their formations shattered, their warlord gone. The Valari homeworld, scarred and burning, still turned beneath the stars. But it was not lost. Against all odds, it still lived. The Valari survivors stood in their ruined stations, watching with wide, tear-filled eyes as the human fleet regrouped. To them, these strangers were both terrifying and divine. Humanity had come from myth, from the forgotten dark, and saved them when no one else had dared to answer. Yet the Valari also trembled, for they had seen what the humans truly were. Not gentle saviors, not distant angels, but storms wrapped in steel, predators who fought with a will that bent even empires. They had saved the Valari, yes, but their presence carried a weight that made the galaxy itself uneasy. The Deathworlder Armada, silent after the battle, finally began to withdraw. They did not speak, but their thoughts echoed through every commander, every crew. They had seen humans fight. They had seen their resolve, their madness, their refusal to bow. And in that silence, a truth spread among them like fire. These humans are kin to us. They are predators born of a death world. But unlike us, they fight for something more. For centuries, the Deathworlders had ruled through fear. To them, strength was survival. Dominance was law. Yet humanity had shown a different kind of strength. A strength born not only of sharp teeth and ruthless will, but of loyalty, to a signal, to a cry for help, to strangers they had never met. It unsettled them. It fascinated them, and it made them wary. The Valari tried to send thanks across comms, their voices trembling, their words broken by static, but the humans gave no reply. Their fleets moved in silence, gathering their wounded ships, pulling their damaged dreadnoughts back into formation. No speeches, no boasts, no demands for repayment, only silence. And then, without warning, their engines flared. One by one, the human ships turned toward the edge of the system. In perfect, silent formation, they vanished into the void from which they had come. The Valari cried out, begging them to stay, to guide them, to be their protectors. But the humans did not answer. They had come because of a signal. The signal had been answered. Their purpose was done. The Valari fell into silence, left with both gratitude and fear. They had been saved. But by what? By who? By legends that should not exist? The galaxy whispered as news spread. The Dominion, humiliated, licked its wounds in silence. The Deathworlders carried the story back to their worlds, telling of a rival that fought like them, yet carried something they did not understand. And across the stars, every council chamber, every throne, every warlord and ruler spoke the same words in hushed voices. Humanity has returned. For some, the words were hope. For others, they were dread. But for all, they were truth. Humanity, forgotten and dismissed as legend, had shattered through despair, through the Dominion, through the silence of the galaxy itself. They were storms in flesh and steel. They were predators who carried loyalty like a weapon. And now, the galaxy knew. The stars would never be the same again.